What if a simple act of compassion could outlive a person's life and still speak after they're gone? What if healing wasn't just about the body, but about restoring hope to an entire community? And what if the quiet good you do today becomes the loudest testimony tomorrow? As the message continued to spread and lives were being transformed, there was a man moving from place to place, not seeking attention, but responding to need. His journey wasn't about building status or recognition. It was about presence, being where he was needed, when he was needed. This man was Peter. He traveled through different regions, visiting believers, encouraging them, strengthening them, and eventually he came to a town called Lydda. It wasn't a place known for great events or large gatherings. It was quiet, ordinary. But sometimes the most powerful moments happen in places that seem unremarkable. In Lydda, Peter encountered a man named Aeneas. Aeneas had been bedridden for 8 years. 8 years of stillness. 8 years of limitation. 8 years of watching life move forward while he remained in the same place. We aren't told everything about Aeneas, but we can imagine the weight of those years. The dependence, the frustration, the quiet questions that come when healing doesn't happen quickly. When Peter saw him, he didn't hesitate. He spoke directly, clearly, without complexity. "Aeneas, Jesus Christ heals you. Get up and make your bed." There was no long explanation, no ritual, just a declaration and an invitation to act. And something changed. Aeneas stood up. After 8 years of being unable to move, he stood. Not gradually, not over time, immediately. That moment wasn't just about physical healing. It was a visible sign, something that people could see, something that could not be ignored. And the result? Everyone in Lydda and the nearby region saw him and turned to the Lord. Think about that. One man's restoration became a doorway for many others. One moment of healing created a ripple that reached beyond the individual. But the story doesn't stop there. Not far from Lydda was another town, Joppa, and in Joppa lived a woman named Tabitha, also known as Dorcas. She was known for something very specific. Not power, not position, not wealth. She was known for doing good and helping others. That was her identity. She made clothes for widows. She served those in need. She gave her time, her effort, her care, consistently, quietly. She didn't seek recognition, but her actions were seen. And then suddenly she became ill and died. The loss was deeply felt. The widows she had helped gathered together, not just in sadness, but in remembrance. They showed the garments she had made. They held on to the evidence of her kindness. This wasn't just grief for a person. It was grief for a presence, for a life that had touched so many others. When the believers in Joppa heard that Peter was nearby in Lydda, they sent for him immediately. They didn't delay. They didn't hesitate. They believed something could happen. So Peter went with them. When he arrived, he was brought upstairs to the room where Dorcas had been laid. The atmosphere was heavy. The widows stood around him weeping, showing him what she had done for them. It's a powerful image, not just words of praise, but physical reminders of love. Peter didn't rush. He sent everyone out of the room. He created space, quiet stillness. Then he knelt down and prayed. There's something deeply important in that moment. Before speaking, before acting, he prayed. And then he turned to the body and said, "Tabitha, get up." Simple words, clear. And then she opened her eyes. She saw Peter and sat up. Life returned. What was lost was restored. Peter helped her up and then called the others back in. He presented her alive. Imagine the shift in that room, from mourning to astonishment, from tears to overwhelming joy, from loss to restoration. And just like before, the news spread. Many people in Joppa believed. But beyond the miracle itself, there is something deeper in this story. Aeneas and Dorcas represent two different kinds of need. Aeneas needed healing after years of suffering. Dorcas represented a life that had already been poured out for others, a life that ended, but whose impact remained. And in both cases, something was restored. For Aeneas, it was movement, independence, life in the present. For Dorcas, it was continuation, a return that allowed her story to keep unfolding. But what stands out even more is how the community responded. In Lydda, people saw the healing and turned towards something greater. In Joppa, people remembered Dorcas not for what she had, but for what she gave. Her legacy wasn't built on words, it was built on actions. And when she was gone, those actions spoke. That raises a powerful thought. What are we building through our daily lives? not in terms of recognition, but in terms of impact. Dorcas didn't know her story would be told like this. She didn't act for attention. She simply lived with purpose, serving, giving, caring. And when she was no longer there, her absence revealed the depth of her presence. There's also something meaningful about how Peter approached both situations. With Aeneas, he spoke directly, confidently. With Dorcas, he paused, prayed, then spoke. Different moments, different approaches, same source of power. It reminds us that not every situation requires the same response. Discernment matters, timing matters, stillness matters, and sometimes before anything changes on the outside, something must align on the inside. Peter didn't act from his own strength. He responded to something greater, and that's what made the difference. These moments weren't about showcasing ability. They were about revealing something beyond human limitation. But here's where it becomes personal. We may not stand in the same situations. We may not speak the same words, but the principles remain. There are people around us who are waiting for encouragement, for support, for presence. There are moments where a simple action can create a ripple effect, and there are lives, like Dorcas, that quietly shape the world around them. You don't need a platform to make an impact. You don't need recognition to create change. Sometimes the most powerful influence comes from consistency, from showing up, from caring, from giving without expectation. And when challenges come, when things feel still, like Aeneas, or uncertain, like the moment Dorcas was gone, there is still room for restoration. Not always in the way we expect, not always in the timing we want, but in ways that remind us that the story is not always over when it seems like it is. There's also a connection between these two moments that's easy to miss. Both happened in places that weren't central, weren't famous. Lydda and Joppa weren't the focus of attention, and yet they became the setting for something powerful. Which means this: you don't have to be in a big place for something meaningful to happen. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. Where you are matters. What you do matters. And who you impact matters. Because sometimes one restored life can open the door for many others. One act of kindness can outlast a lifetime, and one moment of faith can shift an entire atmosphere. So whether you see yourself in Aeneas, waiting, hoping, needing change, or in Dorcas, giving, serving, building something meaningful quietly, or even in Peter, moving, responding, being present, there is something here for you. A reminder that restoration is possible, that impact is real, and that even the quietest life can leave the loudest echo. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share this video with someone who needs encouragement today.